Welcome draft 2016 to 2040 public hearing participants, which as of right now these participants consist of me and Lee.
Signing up public, we see about stuff.
Living in Southern California, we seem to have it all. The beaches.
So, as you can see, there's Imperial and Ventura, the LA boardroom. Right now those are all empty, and then us. Okay, so it's January 19th at 9:45 a.m. and I'm here at the SCAG office at Sandbag for the public hearing on the plan. This is the second public hearing, and there's supposed to be all the counties involved today, including Orange County. So we'll see how many people show up. If you recall, at the last public hearing, in the 5 Southern California counties, Orange County wasn't part of it. There were 3 members of the public that showed up, and that is abysmal engagement, and so I call that bogus engagement. So let's see what the second public hearing is going to bring. Okay, so here is the sign for the hearing.
Morning.
Hello, how are you? Good morning. How are you? You gotta do another one of these, Alan?
Yep.
Wow, are you
I had a
gonna?
meeting already, so I'm already here.
Oh, interesting. So we'll just go ahead and document that there's a lot more material here than there was at the first public hearing. They went ahead and got some of these booklets, the bigger booklets, and a bunch of comment cards. I'm going to attempt to disseminate this information. So here is the plan.
These are the appendices, and this is the actual plan here.
Nice. And how many pages is that?
They have it broken in sections, so I'd say about at least 300.
That's about a phone book there.
And then this one is at least 250. So we got at least 500 pages.
I think it's more than that.
Probably more.
I wonder if Arnold knows how many pages it is. I should ask him.
What a stellar, important day, and we all know why.
I want to kind of share with you some of the statistics that we compiled with regard to the discussion leading up to us being here today. We've had 200 meetings with local jurisdictions. We've had over 100 technical committee meetings. We've had over 50 policy committee and subcommittee meetings, 18 regional council and joint meetings, 50 workshops, open houses, hearings, over 75 presentations to stakeholder groups. That comes to a total of almost 500 meetings to get to where we are today.
Nobody went to.
It's been a very inclusive process, I think. We can all agree.
Well,
Based on the number of comments, we are going to limit to each speaker to 2 minutes, please. Keep your comments focused.
Well, I have a prepared, it's about 3 minutes, but. Good afternoon, unelected regional board. I have waited a long time to do this. I found out some time back that this body that most people have never even heard of intends to spend $500 billion on a single plan. This is not getting paid for at the city council level. This is wholly funded by vehicle mileage tax, which means you intend on stealing $500 billion out of people's cars to pay to put them onto bikes. This plan is to put everyone out of their cars and onto bikes, buses, and trains. There is no arguing that this entity wants us out of our cars. Last year, the state of California tried to pass Senate Bill 350, which would cut all gasoline sold in the state by 50%. No gas means no cars. Thankfully, that bill has completely failed. SCAG's own numbers state that 95% of the population is driving around in cars, which means the vast majority of people wouldn't like this plan to begin with, but most people don't even know this is occurring. This is criminal. Where's the media at? Why aren't there 50 cameras back here documenting this is going on? This whole plan is based on lies. The phony science of global warming and climate change. Carbon dioxide is not a dangerous pollutant. If you believe in God, you know that it's not possible for CO2 to be bad for the planet. Plants need CO2 to live. We are told that millennials are just dying to live in tiny apartments, not drive, and hang out in parks all day. It's time for a little wake-up call. This came out the other day. It says, guess who's moving to the burbs? The millennials. This one also came out the other day. It says, millennials love to drive. Everything being presented is social engineering and propaganda. This is an LA Times article from a few days ago. Here's what it says about the drought. It says the best weapon against water shortages in the future is a sensation of crisis today. This is all propaganda and social engineering, all $500 billion of it. I went to a meeting a few months ago and I recorded Alan Wapner refer to the Regional Transportation Plan as the central plan of Southern California. Central plan, he admits it. This is central planning. Central planning is communism. Mao's China, Stalin's Russia did these 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plans, and here we are engaging in the same behavior. America was not planned. America exploded into being out of a revolution. America did not become great because it was planned. America became great because it was free, and all this planning puts everyone into a box, literally and figuratively. To show you that this is communism, the other day, I only have another line to go. There's only a couple people speaking anyway. The other day, the LA Times, they had an article.
Sir, thank you.
I'm almost finished. To show you this is communism, the other day, the LA Times published this article that actually said the millennials want to live like communists, and then this article referred to this concept as sustainable communities, which is what this plan is based on. Don't approve this communist central plan. We don't need to change California into a smart slave grid, and don't need another $500 billion coming out of our pockets. Thank you for listening.
Can I just say that one of the things that I think makes this country great is that we can listen to all points of view. We appreciate you being here. And if you want to spend a few minutes with any person here in the room, we could probably assist you with some of the information presented in your class. Moving on.
Next one is Trustee Capps. Hi, you guys are really rude to laugh at him. You should just listen and try to absorb some of this information. My name is Trustee Capps. I'm a toll-free IE. We're a group dedicated to stopping toll lanes in San Bernardino County. In a great nation like ours, you can't let people do what they want. It has to be coordinated. Right, Hassan?
In a great nation like ours, you can't let people do what they want. It has to be coordinated.
Does that sound American to you? Is that the principles that our nation was founded on? Go ahead, laugh at me if you want. What he just said is absolutely correct.
Please not yell. We're not deaf. People like us.
Anyways,
do the same way. You're on a microphone.
I'm upset because you just all laughed at someone who came all the way from West Covina. Anyways, I'm using my time. I have some pet names for Hassan. I won't share them. He knows what they are. This is a nonsensical plan that actually creates traffic. It erodes our freedom. I attended all 4 public hearings. The engagement was absolutely abysmal. An example is 19 million people in the region and only 14 letters. And we should have held this meeting in a stadium, but people don't know what you people are up to here today because they've done it all under the radar. So in closing, because that rude lady who's running this meeting is going to do the 2-minute time thing, honorable means deserving honor and respect. So I have a scripture for you, Proverbs 11:14. Without wise leadership, a nation falls. There is safety in having many advisors. And I would just urge you all, you were all elected to represent the people in your cities, not to take Hassan's edicts and rubber stamp them. So I hope today, as you vote, you will live up to the title Honorable that SCAG has bestowed on you. Thank you.
So we're not just representing the 350,000 people that are in my city, but I'm representing 18 million people in this Southern California region.
One thing that came up during some other comments that I would like to add onto my list here is sort of city engagement. And just because I'm here representing 3 cities doesn't mean that each of those cities was disengaged in this process.
I do plan to vote for both the items, but I want to clarify on the 710, I support the tunnel, and to me this is an environmental justice and social justice issue. Those people, mostly minorities, who gave their homes or businesses reluctantly or willingly for the existing 710.
As you heard, it's about a $500 billion project. There are thousands of projects contained in there. It's thousands of pages long. The other thing you have to take into consideration is that when the federal government reviews a document, if they see that it's like a vote of 40 to 39 or something like that, they're gonna take more scrutiny in reviewing the document than if it's an overwhelming approval of the document. They might send something. So what I would urge you to consider doing is supporting the RTP as we've been requested to by many folks in our stakeholder group. So with that, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion based on that recommendation that the PEIR be approved.
I think we have a motion and a second on item number 2, which is the PEIR. The motion is to approve, to certify. Please ballot. And for clarification, while we're balloting, we're going to take action on items 2 and 3 and then break for lunch.
Let's get 10 against.
Go ahead and close the polling. We have 49
Wow.
in favor, 3 against. We will scroll through to make sure that your vote has been properly recorded.
So I just found out that SCAG, which everyone in the room behind me denies as communist, they are communist. They are implementing United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. Of course, they pretend that they don't know what that is, but here they are receiving an award from the United Nations for their sustainable development goals. So SCAG is implementing United Nations Agenda 21. There's no doubt about it. There's no hiding it. They are not working on behalf of the people. They are working on behalf of the United Nations. Shame on all of them. Those people inside are all traitors. They have gone against their oath to uphold the Constitution. The UN does not supersede anything that the United States of America upholds or does.
When did we go from a local control government to a federal control government?
They fool you into thinking you have local control. You don't. Now when it comes to emission standards and environmental impact.
So environmental justice is also a federal requirement. And it's required of every federal agency receiving transportation dollars to analyze and make sure that its plans do not negatively or disproportionately impact low-income and minority communities. This is actually through several statutes, Title VI, Executive Order 12898 from 1998, and several other requirements and guidelines. And so that's where the concept of environmental justice comes from. So SCAG must do an environmental justice analysis as part of its RTP-SCS.
Environmental justice to make sure the low-income population households and also minorities, their interests are protected. That is very important. That's why we are here. Yes.
Can you define what the minorities are? What minorities are you protecting?
Yes, minorities based on the federal definition, really based on the ethnicity. So any non-white ethnicity, including African American, including Asian, including Hispanic.
So you would be considered a minority?
I would say so. By the federal definition, yes.
Okay, I just want to understand what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. But as a matter of fact, we do see, that's a very good question, Tracy. We do see a trend that so defined minority may become majority in terms of the population.
So if there's less Caucasian people, then are they the minorities too, or not?
Caucasians are still considered as non-minority by definition.
We live in Fontana, Hispanic people are the majority.
In
numbers. That's just, but that's not what you would consider a minority. So because there's less Caucasian people, that's not a minority.
Hispanics, even in your community, they are majority by numbers. They are still defined as minority.
I may be white, I may not be low income, but the fact of the matter is, that doesn't mean that everything has to be distributed equally and evenly, because there is such a thing as structural disinvestment and structural racism, and this is what this plan is trying to do. It's trying to contradict centuries of disinvestment.
What's the scope of what we're talking about?
Number one is regional policies.
First, one of the most important things about conducting environmental justice analysis is understanding what groups we want to determine impacts, what groups we want to analyze and figure out how is our plan affecting these communities. So starting with identifying environmental justice population groups, starting with our minority population. Climate adaptation is looking at how communities will develop strategies to address certain climate change impacts. So like sea level rise. We know that our oceans are rising, and so there are going to be impacts within the next 100 years for a number of communities in Southern California. So we need to look at who are the people who are living in those areas, and will they be impacted, and are they environmental justice communities specifically. So just to reiterate what these are. We looked at every place, every community in the SCAG region, and selected out the ones that had the highest third of minority and low-income population. So this really helps us look at the areas that have the highest concentration of our environmental justice populations.
Those individuals who have come over here and said that you don't represent the community are completely mistaken. This community is 90% Latino, 45% undocumented, and these two individuals deserve the right to be here.
Dennis, can you run on an affordable housing platform as a supervisor?
No. Because the base of people who would vote for an affordable housing platform don't live in my community yet, right? So you've got to create a, I mean, if this is the agenda, you're going to have to create the base from scratch, and then you're going to have to make sure that they vote, and then you're going to have to make sure that I know that they vote.
Are communities that are sometimes threatened or intimidated by giving comment in a language that isn't as comfortable to them. So those are kind of the things that we're thinking about and we're looking at when we're building the high-speed train.
How do we remove that stigma of public transportation? Because once we do that, then that I think really talks to the issue of safety and to the issue of people feeling more comfortable using alternative transportations. And when you look at the diversity of our region, a lot of people come from parts of the world where the only thing they have is public transportation. So how do we, create that? How do we remove that stigma and being able to work with these diverse communities to ensure that that public transportation continues to be their option?
Now let's look at the U.S. map on the backside. This is the UN Wildlands Biodiversity Map. This is what Agenda 21 is. The red means you are not ever allowed to step foot onto it. The yellow are your parks, and the green is where you get to live. As you can see, there's not a lot of green on the map.
If you've ever driven I-5, you've probably seen the big signs for this. This is really an extraordinary piece of property located on the spine of California, right at the base of I-5 and 99, at the bottom of the San Joaquin Valley. For probably 150 years, it's been kind of a mysterious place, privately owned. Nobody really has had access to it. You may have seen the signs, you may have seen the incredible wildflowers that blanket the western edge along I-5 in the spring. But it's always been very much at the top of the list for conservation in California. And the reason for that is it's the largest private landholding in California, 270,000 acres, 9 times the area of the city of San Francisco. And it's all contiguous and it's all under one owner. It's a huge opportunity for conservation. And this is really the main reason why. You have the San Joaquin Valley ecosystem, you have the southern Sierra Nevada ecosystem, you have the Mojave Desert, and you have the coastal range. All of them come together on the Tejon Ranch. That means the species interact, both animal and plant. And to have this much land unfragmented and really under the control of one owner that you can get in a room with and sit down and talk to is great. And there's been lots of efforts over the years to persuade the Tejon Ranch Company, which is a publicly traded corporation, to talk about conservation, and they've always said no. So I've already kind of explained why this is significant from a conservation perspective. We call it the holy grail of conservation in California.